The film opens with Julia and her colleague, both scientists, conducting experiments in an ice-covered area that required them to detonate bombs in the icy water. Just then, they received a call from headquarters alerting them to a massive storm approaching their location, requiring them to evacuate as quickly as possible. A Russian submarine also passing nearby also heard a strange and loud noise, but they too were unable to explain it. The most surprising thing was that the waves of the ocean were rising from below. Julia's scanners started working strangely, and the ice around their camp also started breaking rapidly. Julia wanted to pick up her research papers before leaving, but the storm had come too close to them, so her fellow scientist pulled her onto the ice. The submarine captain realized that this sound was of something living, and they immediately started trying to escape from it. But suddenly, underwater, the submarine collides with a large object. Julia and her companions tried to escape quickly because of the breaking ice, but unfortunately the ice ahead begins to break, causing their snow-moving boat, their only means of escape, to collide with the force of the impact and burn to ash. It then sinks into the water. Furthermore, the explosions quickly destroy their camp, and the remaining scientists slowly drown to their deaths. Meanwhile, the submarine is also being continuously damaged, and they are barely able to hold on to their seats because everything is shaking so violently. After a lot of effort, it manages to fire, that is, attack with fire, the light emanating from which clearly shows large tentacles. Just then, a man collides with the glass screen and falls away. He becomes unconscious due to the injury. Now, before the submarine sinks completely, an officer sends an emergency message, and the news of the submarine's disappearance reaches the Russian Navy headquarters. Because the submarine was carrying very important weapons, they send a rescue team to either save it or, if they cannot save it, blow it up. This mission, the lead scientist's name is Victor, the brother of the stranded submarine's captain. His family was worried that Victor might also get trapped. His mother was extremely worried, so she gave Victor a watch that belonged to his father. His mother said, "This will be your salvation, even if he is no longer alive. Wherever he is, he will take care of you." That night, when Dictator arrived at docks, he learned that his father's old friend, a senior officer, was also going on the mission. Now he began to worry that he was too old. If something has happened, then something might happen to them. After this, all the members of his crew group boarded the submarine. On the same side, Julia and her companion were wandering in the snowstorm. They were trying to catch the signal here when Julia lost her senses and was about to fall into a deep ditch. Then her companion saved her by taking her to the side at the last moment. At that very moment, Julia got the signal of an oil rig on her phone, that is, of a place present in the sea where the digging team lives to extract oil. And now, as soon as she got the signal, she connected the call. But the snowstorm, because of this, he was very sure that Ricky would not understand him, and after a short while the signals were lost and the call was disconnected. Julia's partner was also very worried. He fired a flare gun towards the sky and sat down on the ground due to fatigue. The next morning, Victor's submarine reached the place where the other submarine had, yes, it had disappeared. After much preparation, they entered the water. Here, he noticed that the senior officer had taken Victor to a private room. Yes, some senior officers were already present, and they, after reading a report, a signal is issued, and everyone becomes extremely worried upon reading it. Soon, rumors of the disappearance of the old submarine begin spreading everywhere. Meanwhile, Julia and her companions found a buoy stuck in the ice. A buoy is actually a device that floats in the water and sends signals to nearby ships. Then a hope arises in them that someone will definitely come looking for them. After this, they stopped wandering here and there and stayed there. When the submarine receives the signal, both of them immediately start moving in that direction. And the submarine? Many wheels around the submarine. It starts spinning, but the crew members also tried to go down without hurting them. One wheel accidentally hit the screw head, which the senior officer saw. He asked the crew to use the sonar, but Victor did not agree to it. Sonar is actually used to locate things, communicate with each other, and create sound waves. But when the sonar was activated, the whales went away a little. But in the blink of an eye, it came back again. The crew could not understand anything. They were wondering what was happening. But then all the waves from Chinook disappear, and for some unknown reason, the ocean floor suddenly begins to rise. Then, in the darkness, a large tentacle begins to move again, killing all the whales with a single stroke. The submarine's master couldn't hear the sound, but then his radar signaled that a large creature was about to collide with his submarine. The senior officer, thinking it might be an approaching enemy ship, ordered the crew to open fire. But Victor didn't believe this order was correct. He seems to be in danger, so he tells the crew to quickly hide. The submarine sinks into a cracked ice wall. Whenever the submarine hits the ice, it shakes. The radar sound grows louder, making the ears of those wearing headphones hurt. As the strange enemy chases them, the crew has to stop the submarine because a wall blocks their path. But the good news is that the unknown enemy chasing them has already left by the time the crew can assess the submarine's damage. The senior officer officer scolds Victor for taking a risk without thinking. Now they have no choice, so they must come above water to repair the submarine. Meanwhile, Julia and her companion lie close to each other under rocks to keep themselves warm. Suddenly, the sound of breaking ice is heard, and the submarine emerges from the water. People from the submarine immediately see them and come to them. The crew members meet them and listen to them carefully. They were not completely sure whether they even owned the submarine or not. He checked Julia's companion, then started talking to the senior officer. On this, the senior officer said that give these two some food and leave them here because they might be spies from another country. But Victor took pity on them, and both of them were put on board the submarine. As soon as the repair work was completed, the submarine went back into the water and they started searching near buoy. After the medical checkup, Julia and her companion were given food. Then Victor showed them the map and asked for the location of their camp, and also asked if they saw anything strange. Julia says they saw huge explosions. Hearing this, Victor thinks that perhaps those explosions could be the reason for the sinking of his brother's submarine. The entire crew starts planning what to do next. Then the senior officer says that they should go back because whatever was in the radar a while ago could be a threat again. This means that if the enemy attacks us again, it will be difficult to even send an emergency signal. But Victor was determined to find his brother and orders that the submarine heads towards Julia's camp when the senior officer takes Victor away and alerts him to the danger, saying, "This is the second time you've made the wrong decision. If this happens again, everything will be over." Victor explains to one of his companions that they must hurry because if anyone is alive on the other submarine, they'll be running low on oxygen and we must reach them quickly. Just then, Julia hears a strange sound which frightens her, but her companion calms her down by saying that it's the voice of the goldsmith who is on the other submarine. The submarine is searching for the submarine. It continues for a while, but then the radar shows that the strange enemy is following them again. Victor tells the crew to find a hiding place as before, but this time there was no such place nearby. But then an oil rig is nearby, so Victor thinks they might find a hiding place there. As the submarine is getting ready to surface, all the workers at the oil rig see huge tentacles rising from the sea, which leaves them stunned. Sensing danger, they immediately sounded the alarm, and within moments, tentacles began attacking the rig, causing the entire building to collapse. Huge explosions were heard in several places. Panicked, many workers tried to flee, but they had nowhere to go as the entire structure was collapsing. As the submarine's path to Rexy broke, Victor, with the help of Periscope, tried to see what was going on. He was terrified when he saw the massive tentacles destroying the rig.
Was sent to the screen so that the entire crew could see what they were fighting. How big is their enemy? Now that the rig is completely destroyed, the strange monster starts chasing the submarine again, after which they immediately destroy the submarine. The senior officer started thinking that this is the third time Victor's made a mistake when he showed the huge monster to the entire crew. So the senior officer directly says that now I will lead the team. He quickly said to release 2 bombs. This was done, and both the bombs hit the target directly. On this, the senior officer, he thought the enemy was dead and said, "Look, this is how things work." But then his face turned pale when an officer said the enemy was still alive, advancing in even more anger. Another bomb was dropped, detonating again, though it hit the target, but it wasn't enough to kill the massive monster. The monster continued to chase the submarine. The junior officer, too frightened, couldn't do anything, so Victor began to lead the team again, telling them to drive the submarine as fast as possible. People escaped most of the monster's attacks, but one of the tentacles hit the submarine hard, causing significant damage. The people working there were also seriously injured. Victor hit his head and became dizzy. Some computers short-circuited, and one computer fell directly on a man, seriously injuring him. The submarine began to sink, and the monster seized the opportunity to launch another powerful attack. Suddenly, the missile compartment exploded, causing a massive fire, after which the crew completely sealed off the ventilation and sealed the area. 7 people stayed there and tried to extinguish the fire with the help of fire extinguisher cylinder, but due to another powerful attack from the tentacle, the submarine starts falling rapidly. Radar shows that the creature has surrounded them from all sides. When Guru looked carefully, he realized that the monster was a Kraken, that is, a very big form of octopus. Many stories have been written about Kraken in ancient time. Now, since they had only one last missile left, he thought a lot. It must be used wisely. They began discussing what to do next. Victor suggested switching the submarine to salad mode, as marine animals typically hunt by sound. Workers in the missile room were ordered to stop extinguishing fires, causing carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide levels to rise. The Kraken's sound was piercing an officer's ears, and those in the missile room wondered, "Are we going to die like this?" But luckily, Victor caught.
The plan worked, and the crack can was thrown away, and they got back to work. But by then, the fire had spread so much that it was impossible to extinguish it with just a few cylinders. Some people were burned by the fire. Victor then told everyone to evacuate the area. Let whatever was burning burn, just save their lives. Some officers were seriously seriously injured as they were trying to escape the fire, but the rest of the crew helped them through the door. The door was closed at the last second, preventing the fire from spreading to other areas. The fire is finally extinguished by controlling the pressure in the room. After this, those who are still well are put to work, and those who are injured are sent to their room. Julia and her partner help treat their injuries, which makes the crew trust them. Later, Victor asks the crew for their opinion on what to do next. Everyone says that they should go back because they have no idea about the location of the other submarine, and they have no security or protection against Kraken. Senior reminds Victor that his dad was a hero. Since he died saving people in a submarine accident, I should sow some common sense here. After much thought, Victor agrees that it would be better for them to return, as the submarine was returning. Victor begins reading his dad's last letter. Just then, Julia enters his room, shows him a map of all the locations where they saw the Kraken, and the location of their camp. She then says, according to old stories, this monster has attacked many ships before, but then suddenly disappeared. That's why scientists believe the Kraken had fallen into a deep slumber. Now the explosions we used may have hit the Kraken's hiding place. That's why it woke up. If everyone wants to survive, they must turn off their sonar or it will come after us again. Now that Julia knows so well about the Kraken, Victor asks her, do you have any idea where could my brother's submarine be? Julia replies that the octopus is searching for its own submarine. They drag the victim into their home, which is located near their camp. When an officer enters, their conversation is interrupted. The officer says, we've got a clue that people are still alive there, and then plays a recording made during the salt mode. In it, everyone can hear someone repeatedly banging on some iron. They track the signal, search for it, and discover that the sound is coming from somewhere near Julia's camp. This clearly means that there are still people alive in the other submarine. Seeing this, Victor called everyone and said, look, our soldiers are trapped in that submarine, standing between life and death. If we don't save them, don't think about who will. I just want to go there for my brother. If even one of you was there, I would have done this for even one person. After which, he gave a direct order to his companions to take the submarine towards Julia's camp. Suddenly, nuts, bolts, lugs, glass, and lights started breaking from the machines and walls. This meant that this submarine had gone into deeper water.
Because they took the submarine a little higher, an officer noticed that they had arrived at a different location. Victor suggested sending a mini-submarine to explore the area better, as the pilot of the mini-submarine had been injured in the first attack. Victor decided to go himself, while the senior officer led the team. The mini-submarine then set off with Victor and two officers. As they went deeper into the water, the pressure caused the iron parts of the submarine to make strange noises. This was her first time venturing into the depths. Pressure was quickly taking its toll on the submarine, so if they didn't find anything soon, they would have to return. Then, they heard a voice from somewhere, and when they went to the location, they discovered that there were thousands of sunken ships there. This meant that Julia's theories and stories were true, meaning the Kraken had attacked and killed many ships before. Finally, they found another submarine and checked its damage. They saw that its front was still intact. That's right, which means there might be some people hiding there. They tried to connect this mini-submarine to the old submarine, but of course, it was very difficult to do so under such pressure. But finally, after a lot of effort, they made the connection. Victor wore a dialing suit, which is worn while swimming, and used this connection to go to the other submarine. When he opened the door, he was overjoyed to see that the entire crew, including his brother Alexander, was alive. He immediately informed the main submarine about this. Told, everyone started celebrating with joy. Now Victor sent as many people as could fit in the mini-submarine, but it would take 2 trips to rescue everyone. So Victor decided that I would stay here with my brother. They installed a tracker on the front part of the submarine so that their location would not be lost. But then they remembered that Kraken can also pick up the signal, so that tracker was turned off. When my submarine left from there, the entire submarine shook violently for a moment, but did not fall down. Soon they were on the main submarine was reached, and treatment for the survivors began. However, the pilot was no longer able to make a second voyage. His condition was critical. Julia asked her colleague to help, having previously worked on a submarine. He agreed, and the submarine left. The senior officer then saw on the radar that the Kraken had begun to move again. Meanwhile, Victor and Alexander went to find the dangerous weapons their superiors had requested. They went to the devastated area and retrieved the codes from the safe. But when they tried to enter the code into the computer, the system simply wouldn't work. But Victor wasn't one to give up, and after pressing a series of buttons simultaneously, the computer finally turned on. They discovered that the weapons were still working. The mini-submarine picked up the signals from these weapons, and they followed the signals to the location. But everyone in the main submarine was terrified, as the Kraken Kraken had come very close. The crew quickly lowered the submarine to the bottom of the ocean and switched to silent mode. They went in.
The Kraken threw a large rock at the submarine, damaging that part. Water began to rush in, startling everyone. Meanwhile, the mini-submarine quickly reached Victor's location, but while moving forward, the tracker accidentally turned on. The Kraken was about to attack the main submarine, but upon receiving the tracker's signal, it began moving towards its cave. On the submarine, the senior officer ordered the crew to quickly take advantage of this opportunity and go upstairs. Meanwhile, Victor reached the weapons, was trying to reach the submarine, which had been blocked by the Kraken's attack. Alexander heard the sound of a mini-submarine. He told his crew to leave while he waited for his brother, Victor. Victor finally reached the weapons room and began entering the codes into the missiles, while Alexander entered the codes into the computer. The weapons took some time to load. Meanwhile, Kraken found them. They were mentally prepared for his attack as his tentacles swirled around the submarine. Both brothers, they talk and apologize for their past fight. Kraken breaks the submarine in half with a single blow, but that part was already empty. Kraken is about to attack again when both brothers simultaneously press the button to fire the weapon. Water is now entering the submarine, so Victor quickly returns to Alexander through the pipe, and the weapon is about to explode automatically, so both brothers try to escape quickly. The submarine is now sinking due to strong waves. Water was coming into the corridor, causing the two brothers to become separated. Victor, searching for Alexander, saw his hand sticking out of the water. He immediately grabbed his brother's hand and pulled him back, and Alexander was finally safe and sound. Victor rescued him. The two brothers climbed the stairs, entered the mini-submarine, and closed the door to prevent water from entering. Only 2 minutes remained for the explosion, but the mini-submarine was unable to launch while they were descending due to the connection to the main submarine. Victor had to use the emergency lever. It appeared. As soon as they pulled it, the mini-submarine finally separated from the other submarine, and they quickly began to leave. As if they were explosions, the rapid waves caused their mini-submarine to spin violently, while everyone in the main submarine was just waiting for them to come up safely. After a while, everyone's spirits began to break. They thought perhaps the two brothers were dead, and their faces dropped grief. But then, something started to appear in the water. It was the submarine, which finally came up safely. Everyone began to celebrate with joy that they had all finally come up. She praises the two brothers for their survival and their bravery, and the way Victor led the crew. Their mother had been waiting for them, and when she saw that both sons had returned safely, she was relieved. The mother and son were overjoyed to be reunited, and the story ends with this.